You kind of lead today, brother.
Okay. How you doing, Madam Noor?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing, Shay?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. I'm going to try to make you smile today.
You might have your work cut out for you.
We all have those days, right?
Exactly.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Madam Noor, the Light and Sight show. This is the Daybreak show. And we're a little late this week with the show, so I'm going to get it cranking here with Madam Noor because she's giving me a serious look this morning. I don't know if I'm in trouble or what, but
Get
wow,
it
she looks like.
moving, Shay. Get it moving.
Anyway, how's your day going?
It's going, it's a busy time of the year, the end of the year with all the holiday situation and
Mm,
people situation. So it's quite interesting, Shake.
okay.
But I think that's a subject for another day and another show.
Oh, okay. So we'll have to do like after the holiday show, right?
Yeah, during,
Oh, during the holiday show. Okay,
during,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We
absolutely
we
during.
should be on all the way through it, so that should be good. But anyway, hey, take it one step at a time and keep smiling through it. If you keep smiling through it, maybe it won't look so bad.
That's the key. That's the key, Shake. Absolutely. Just keep muddling through the access.
All right. You know what? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ivory moment. You see that Ivory moment? She just smiled, and I saw those beautiful white pearly whites. I'm just lighting up the world. Come on, Madam Noor, you're the light in sight. Surely the light in sight. And the more we see those teeth, the more we'll smile.
Okay, Shake. Move on, move on.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today is going to be a remarkable show. It is inspired by one of our viewers on Twitter. And actually, let's bring up the Twitter feed and let's read it here. This is from Shannon. She's at Flower74 on Twitter there. And she says, Madam Noor, my husband has confessed to having an affair, and he has apologized many times for living a double life. However, he has said that says his feelings are genuine towards the other person or the other relationship and will not leave her. I'm trying to live with this arrangement, but I resent him, and I'm becoming vengeful and spiteful towards him. What should I do? Hashtag men suck. Now that is heavy.
Well, that's rough.
That's heavy.
That's rough. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
let me set it up before you answer, Madam Noor. Let me just help our viewers in the Eastern world that don't understand. This is the wild, wild west over here where we live. Polygamy and multiple marriages are, I believe, against most state statutes and laws in the United States. However, if you're Islamic or if you're Mormon, I do believe that they kind of turn a blind eye towards it and don't really press it legally, but it is against the law in America where Shannon is. So, firstly, we're not trying to suggest that anyone break the law. And we're not here to speak for the law as well, but we want to try to help Shannon out and give our take on it. And Shannon, please also understand that we're not therapists. We're not licensed therapists at all. And we thank you for trusting us with, wanting to know our take on this situation. But, I'll turn this over to Madam Noor and let her start her take on this, because this is actually a common situation going on in the West. We hear about this day in and day out about relationships taking this direction. And there's many answers for what, why, how, and all of that. And I don't think there is a particular answer that is universal in this. Everybody's situation is different. But let's crack at this, Madam Noor. I think this really speaks more or less to relationships in general, and what their dysfunctions, you know, um, and how they become dysfunctional. I think if we get more in depth in dysfunctions and relationship currencies, maybe we can help her out a little bit more than as much the circumstances of her particular situation. But what's your take?
Well, I'm sure. Well, Sheikh, first of all, I wanted to make sure, did you welcome everyone to show number 2?
You know what? I did not.
Well, welcome everyone to show number 2.
I did not.
Please join us for number 3.
All right.
Sheikh, you know what? I heard Shannon's question and her concern, and my take on that would be, first, she has to figure out if she wants the relationship.
Yes.
If she does not want the relationship, then I think the best advice, or I would do it if I was in her situation, is to just cut it off and walk away and start again. If she wants to have the relationship and continue to be married, then my advice to both of them is to get professional counseling, because as you mentioned, we're not therapists. We don't have a license to practice. So I would not want her to base her decision on my advice or your advice.
Yeah.
If she wants a relationship, she needs to, both of them have to get professional counseling and work through it. And it won't be easy, but it might be worth it for her. And Shannon, on that, I wish you luck. In your decision. Yeah. And it's not easy, but things work out, the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So just continue, Shannon, to have faith and belief and go with your heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Your heart does not tell you a lie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree with that?
In many ways I do. And I think sometimes we don't have enough information going into relationships. I think our models of relationships are built on fantasy.
Absolutely, it is.
I remember when I was a young.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember in my youth, it was. My relationship templates were Cinderella, knight in shining armor,
Prince Charming.
Yeah, so I don't think my parents ever sat me down and said these are relationship goals, or these are relationship. This is how you format a relationship. It was almost like an organic process, but my only reference as a child, or becoming an adult, of what a relationship was not only watching my parents in their relationship. That's the first relationship that I've ever got a chance to see as an example.
That's with most, and that's with most people,
Yeah.
And Sheikh, having a relationship, it's really on the job training.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's kind of like the University of You, right? Because
absolutely,
if you think about what they teach us, it's relationships, in my experience, have taught me things that I could not have really learned in any other kind of curriculum or school, other than being like in the university of myself through the relationship, right? And that's when I realized I hurt, how I hurt, why I hurt. And then you start to kind of unwrap these things, and you say, now, wait a minute. Why do I feel disrespected in this situation? And why do I feel a loss in this when I lose it? Why do I have fears, that are built around it? I found out that I had insecurities, and I had to drill down on those insecurities. Like, why was I insecure? And where did all of this come from? And so, Shannon, sometimes when you kind of drill down, just continue to ask questions and drill down to the least denominator of a situation, you get your answers. And sometimes those answers are not palatable. They're not easy to digest, and because they take time in order to, it's almost like getting that favorite candy when you were young. For me, it was, charms. It was like a lifesaver, like candy, and you had to suck it down forever and before you could start biting on it, or else it'd pull a molar out, right? So it's almost like your relationships are like that. You have to kind of live with it for a minute in reality, and then get it down to where it's, within a space that you could either, chew it and digest it, or spit it out because you're tired of dealing with it. So wow, I'm just trying to visit her, a situation like that. What is it like when you like, okay, I had the relationship. It appears that the husband has communicated that it's something that he wants to live with, right? But it's something that maybe he didn't communicate to her. So as it was developing. So first thing I see is a communication problem, and communication is one of the key relationship currencies that you would have to have in any relationship for it to be successful. Respect would be another relationship currency that was kind of neglected in this, because he didn't give her the respect to let her know that, hey, this is something that is happening to me, and maybe if they could have talked this thing out during the processes, maybe they could have reasoned through it. But it doesn't appear that she was given that chance.
Absolutely, they can. But the question is do they want to continue in the relationship? If the two parties do not want to continue, it's not going to work.
Well, what if let's look at, instead of looking at the cup half empty versus half full, let's pick it apart. Let's assume that they want, she really loves the guy, and she does not want to lose him, and she decides to live with this, under new terms, if they can come to those terms within their relationship, within their marriage. Do you think that respect is something?
Jake, I'm going to be honest with you, it's too complicated, and it's best just to separate.
Well, that right there may be best for some, but what if the currencies in this relationship outweigh the circumstances? What if the other currencies, there are other currencies, and we're going to talk about those and just, as we go through this show, but maybe what this husband does for Shannon, and we don't know because she didn't share that with us, but maybe there are other currencies that outweigh the circumstances. I know we're all living in a tough time, and in a marriage you're going to have debt. If she did not say whether she had children or not, but children are biological debt certificates. When it comes down to economy and working to make this thing work, I mean, children cost a lot of money. So I don't know, I'm sure this would evoke fears, because if you're going to share your time and your relationship, if you're going to extend yourself to another relationship, you really need to have those conversations of where this other relationship is going to go, and how these resources and things that are important in a relationship or in a marriage are going to be divided. Because now, I mean, it just opens up a whole box of things that would not have had to be dealt with if he had not have made a choice to follow his choices,
his feelings. That's all it was, the feelings.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was. We don't hear his side.
He must have had a temporary feeling to, go side off of his marriage. He didn't consider his wife.
Right.
Am I correct?
So consideration that's another relationship currency that wasn't considered. I mean, I would say they would have to definitely rewrite the script for their relationship, because I I haven't reached that level of forgiveness, and evolution where I could take a hit like that. And um, but there are some people that have, and maybe
Well,
Shannon is one of them.
they say forgiveness is divine.
Yeah, well, it is, and you have to be honest with yourself. Have you reached that point in your life? Um, I,
But
you know.
Shay, let me
Okay.
intervene for a minute.
Yes.
There is forgiveness is divine, but does one ever forget?
No.
One can forgive, but yet can one forget?
Well, let's unwrap that. Okay. So when a situation happens to you, you have to look, first of all, you have to say, okay, I'm in this situation. It's happening to me. What am I to learn from it? That's the first thing you have to say. What am I to learn from it? Because
Absolutely.
relationships are a school of learning. You're in the
Yeah.
university of you. So if you react, whether it be emotional or whatever, if you react without first asking yourself, what am I learning from this? And what am I to learn from this? Then you're going to rob yourself of the jewel that situation can bring you. I think that everything that's precious and valuable, like diamonds and gold and things that we hold high in value, are made in dark spaces, like deep down in the earth is dark, and that's where all precious metals come from. And I think if we look at this analogy and look at our lives, that this is surely a dark hour for Shannon. And, you know, and if she looks at this as, God is it's not overlooking this situation, but God is in this situation, right? Because when you think God is an observer, you
True.
think you're on your own. But when you think God is in the situation, then you can make it through anything if God's there, right? If God is with you and you kind of examine, and be true to yourself of how you're feeling about this and how you communicate this. And if God's with you, then hey, you're not alone. And so I think that I have seen relationships make it through situations like this. And wow, what did they learn on the other side
Yes,
of themselves?
I think we all have heard stories of people that have gone through very hard times and they made it.
Mhm, mhm.
And sometimes the struggle makes them stronger,
Yeah,
if they can open up the lines of communication between each other.
yeah,
But still, the desire has to be there. I
it
feel
does.
very strongly about
It
that,
does. It
If
does.
Shannon doesn't want or the husband doesn't want to be in the relationship, then the best advice I would give him is to get out of it.
Mhm, mm. Well, listen, if her resentment and her vengefulness and her spitefulness is going to cause her to inflict harm on him, by all means, get out. You know, uh,
Yeah, because you've also
because
heard stories of where, one spouse will take take the other spouse's life for no
yeah, well,
reason.
one thing we have learned in the metaphysical world is hurt people hurt others. When you're operating from a space of hurting, you cannot give a joyful outcome. When you're joyful, you can give joy. When you're hurting, you can only give hurt. You can't give joy out of out of a hurtful presence.
And you are
You can only
absolutely correct.
yeah, you can only
Hurt
donate what
people
you're
do
operating in,
hurt others. Yep, you are absolutely correct on
Yeah,
that.
so it appears that she's already starting down the path of trying to hurt him or take vengefulness, revenge on him. And so that already tells you that she's already breaking down in a lot of ways. And
Dear
um,
Shake, how did you get so knowledgeable on the subject?
oh my gosh, I have lived my life through many relationships, and I've examined myself through them, and I just continue to drill down and ask questions. I want to unwrap. I don't want to bury anything. I don't want to bag anything. I want to kind of unwrap everything down to its least denominator and say, hey, listen, let's keep everything out in the open so it can be dealt with. Because if I bury anything, it's going to come back. And I have buried things before. And then what happens is because I buried that, I magnetize in my next relationship the same situation, because it's like, hey, I have some unresolved lessons over here that I have just decided I'm going to bag and bury, right? And then that became like a form of magnetism. And so the very next relationship that I was in, I had to deal with that, in which I buried the first time. So I just learned that, you know what, it's better to deal with it than to bury it, because I'm not like an ostrich. I'm not going to put my head in the sand any longer. And I found that by dealing with things, yes, do they hurt? Yes, by God, they do hurt. And most things that hurt me in relationships and my experience with them in the past and the present is the reflection. The reflection that bothers me the most is what's in me. So, it's easy to kind of point at the other person when you're hurting and say, you did this to me, you caused this pain. Everything was fine, and then you did something.
So, Sheikh, let me ask you, are you trying to tell Shannon not to bury anything, or not to bury her feelings or her,
That's exactly what I'm telling her. Don't bury it, Shannon. Please, by all means, keep them out in the open so they can be dealt with.
What happens, Sheikh, when you bury something painful like that?
Well, let's look at this a couple ways. When you're hurting, if it causes you not to be reactionary and it causes you to not be retaliatory by pausing, okay? Pausing. I think we can all take a pause at something and just look at it for a certain amount of time without burying in it, keeping it out in the open and just pause, because sometimes you just have to stop. You can't just keep analyzing and, because the hurt will continue to dictate certain things that are really not going on, because you can paint a picture worse than it is, right? So sometimes you have to pause, right? And that's okay. But to deny or to bury or to turn your back to something and act like it doesn't exist will cause you to magnetize that experience again. Somewhere, maybe on a job next time. It may not be in relationship as far as, man and woman, or nowadays, God knows, whatever relationship dynamics you have, but it may, jobs are relationships, so maybe you have to magnetize those experiences on a job, and then you.
So what you're saying is to bury something is not the best way to handle it.
No, it's not. In my experience, it is not. It is not. It is not.
Well, that would be my experience also.
That's awesome. That's keeping it real with Madam Noor.
Always.
Yes. But I am.
You got to keep it real, and you got to be true.
Yes.
Sheikh. You got to be true.
You have to be true to yourself. So anyway, Madam Noor, while we're talking about this, let's talk about some relationship currencies. I mean, I think a lot of us, and I'm only speaking from my own journey, right? Early on as I was building personal relationships in my young adultness, I was addicted to stimulation, and I realized that a lot of things I was doing in the relationships were to stimulate it and not really live it. What do I mean by that? Sex is stimulation. So this could be a beautiful thing, but what happens when you start having children? What happens when you start having more responsibilities? What happens when you get that mortgage payment? What happens when you start having to work 12 hours a day? What happens when life happens,
And it does happen.
and then that stimulation in which you enjoyed so freely now becomes almost like a recreational activity that you have to afford versus a benefit or privilege, from being in the union itself. And then as you move forward with that, then you realize, have you ever like been in a relationship and you've gone to the movies or something, and you're like, this week we go to the movie theater right near us, right? There's a movie theater five miles from the house, right? And you go to the movie theaters and you're like, and you enjoy a movie and everything. And then you find yourself trying to keep the relationship fresh. So next time you go to the movies, you drive 10 miles out, you pass 2 theaters to get there, but hey, it's a new experience. Or let's say you go to one diner and then, once you've been there once or twice and enjoyed your favorite selections on that menu, you're going to another one and you're going to another one. And then you find that, hey man, you're like in this race of stimulation. I'm trying to keep it fresh. I'm trying to keep things like, trying to reinvent the wheel in this relationship. And because it's stimulating, gifts are stimulating. Like, hey, I bought you a necklace today, or I bought you a teddy bear tomorrow. It's just, okay, well, I have the teddy bear, I have the necklace, I have the ring, I have the this and that. Okay, now what? So then I realized, wait a minute, this is stimulation. This is stimulation. What if I don't have these things to give? Hey, if you're working 12 hours a day, you have to sleep at least 6. Okay. Not including traffic. How are you ever going to have enough time to really do these things, consistently, right? And then you say, okay, well, now what is this relationship based on? Well, sex is out the door. That's stimulation. Okay, buying things is getting old because now we're starting to look like hoarders because we have all this material stuff, but we're still not happy because we want more. We have 3 cars in the garage, and it's only 2 of us that are drivers. We've been on this vacation and that vacation and everything, and here we are. We're still looking for more places to go. And then you say, well, wait a minute. Who wrote these relationship standards? And why am I participating in this? Who am I in a race up against? And I say, wait a minute. Let's take a look at this thing, because there's some things that we're overlooking here. Like cooperation, collaboration. I went into a business with one of my past relationships, and we were collaborative, right? And it helped me experience some things I wasn't having in a traditional relationship, because we were collaborating together, and I was learning my strengths and my weaknesses. When you first go into it, you're trying to impress. Maybe you have certain knowledge or you have certain gifts that you can bring to the table, and the other person may have complementary gifts. Like they may be good at the accounting part of it, where you're good at the creativity part of it. And then you're admiring one another. Like, hey, gosh, you're doing your part and I'm doing my part, and because we're able to be collaborative in this, it's working. And then you start making money and you start becoming successful doing it. And so then it opens up, what became, cooperative and collaborative.
Now, Jake, let me interrupt you for a moment.
Yes.
That's a lot of information for our viewers and for Shannon.
Oh.
But what would be, in your view, the most important currency in a relationship for it to work?
The most important. I would say effective listening. How about that? Now I'll ask you, Madam Noor, what would you say the
Oh, well,
most
I was going to
important?
give you my answer regardless whether you asked me or not. But
What would you say?
my biggest currency in a relationship would be that of respect.
Respect.
First, you would need to have respect for yourself.
Mm,
And obviously, you have to have respect for your other half.
mm, okay.
So that would be one of the top 5 currencies
Okay. That so
that I
that's
feel
at the
are
top.
important.
Oh, so we're gonna give a list of 5.
No, I didn't say we're going to give a list.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, okay. You're putting me on
I
the
just
spot here,
said
Madam
that
Noor.
that would be my top 5. That would be
Right.
one of the top 5s.
Right. In Shannon's case, being I kind of uh ran off the reservation and through the fence here with the topic. In Shannon's case, I would say that presence would be something she should take a good look at because you're having to share
Well, if
and
he's not going to be there, then there's no relationship, right?
right. Well, the thing is that how much
So he
presence
has to be there.
how much presence is necessary in order for you to sustain, you know, developing, continuing to develop or to continue to mature in this relationship. Now let's look at this. If a man is working a second job and in order to get the family ahead, then presence wouldn't be there. So whether it's another relationship or a second job, if we're talking about presence for presence sake, then you would have to be fair and to him and say, well, you can't really fault him for the presence because he's sharing whatever time, with this second person. And if she has been willing to do this, which it seems like she's having a hard time with it, but let's say if she was willing to do this, then which would show a strength on her behalf of being not being selfish, or being generous in all aspects, with sharing her husband, then I would say that, oh my God, man. I mean, I'm just thinking about this whole situation. It's almost impossible for, I wonder if Shannon has a relationship or would be willing to have at least a communicative situationship with the other woman. And the reason why I say this is because if you're sharing something, then you should be at least in contact with one another if you're sharing something. If you and I are sharing a car, then
But I don't believe, Sheikh, that was her question. I don't believe that she wants a relationship with her husband's lover or
well,
lover.
I'm saying I said communicative. This is important. Communication is everything. And what that would do is help bring respect back to the table. One is that if you're sharing something, if you and I are sharing a car, okay, then we both have access to it, right? Hello? So if you're sharing a man, you
Well,
both have access to it.
I was thinking about that. I mean, that's true, but that's something I wouldn't. I don't think so. I would.
Hey, it's not
Do
this kind of situation is unique, but hey, if it presented
Well,
itself.
it is, Shake, but I'm trying to imagine, what she must be going through, with
Mhm.
this situation she has. I mean, she
Right,
has a spouse that
right.
they committed to each other, they took vows, and now he's admitted that he's went off the path.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's difficult. I'm live in a show. You would believe I'm actually having a conversation here. So, Madam Noor, you wouldn't believe that we have a caller. But anyway, I'm not able to bring you into the show because I'm live and I don't have a way of bringing you into the show, but I will have to call you back and maybe arrange another time that you could come into the show. So, all right. I see your number on the post here, and we'll get back in contact with you. Madam Noor, we already started. We're starting to have calls before we're ready. Anyway.
Well, that's okay. Just tell our viewers just to write them down and send them in, and we'll answer them as best that we can.
Well, I think this is a hot topic, and they're probably on the Instagram or Twitter trying to figure out how to get in contact with us, and they have found us now. We haven't advertised the number, but I'm assuming they're getting this on social media somewhere. But anyway, back to Shannon. Again, this is happening.
I hope, Sheikh, it's not Shannon calling.
No, it wasn't Shannon
because
calling.
Okay.
But in other words,
it is a very hot topic, and I think it's in society, I think
we all deal with it. How many? Listen, as a man, I'm just here. I'm letting you know. Let's just keep it real. I would have loved Shannon to be live so I could really drill down and see what the variables were to her relationship. Maybe I could have. I am an astrologer. I am a numerologist, and I do understand some of the occult sciences that may have been beneficial to her. And so, Shannon, maybe if you can, be a call-in guest of ours when we are able to take the Skype calls into the show, maybe we can actually go deeper into what's going on in and around your situation and kind of look at it from, many different, ways that maybe even metaphysically I could break down some things for you. But until we can do that, yes, these are difficult situations, but I believe that if it happened to you, then God is in it and you'll get through it. And when you get through it, on the other side of it, you will have an enlightenment that will be rewarding to you. And I believe that if you don't bury, you keep everything unwrapped and in the open, that maybe you'll have a different perspective. Maybe you'll have a different form of maturity. Hey, maybe you would have reached a level of forgiveness that all of us would need to consider as a model of example for someone in this situation. But I do know it's common. Every one of us have a father, a brother, or uncle, or somebody who has been in this situation before. So this subject always touches our homes in a lot of ways. And my question, Madam Noor, would be this, and this is making no excuse for deceit, the lack of respect, the lack of accountability, and the lack of communication, and all of that. But what I would say is that, why is our expectations, if this is something that the rich deal with, the poor deal with, the skinny deal with, the fat deal with, the blind deal with, those that see can deal with, if this is something that is constantly occurring in every aspect of relationships or marriage between individuals, maybe we need to unwrap this deeper and say, hey, listen, if this is something that is going to happen, then maybe we need to really examine our expectations in relationships and where they're born of. And secondly, if it's going to happen, then we need to prepare for it. If, we know polygamy is illegal in the Western world, but it works in the East. It works in the East. It worked during biblical times in the Old Testament. So we do know it works, and it's working today on earth. Okay. The only difference.
Sheikh,
hold on.
I
hold
think
on. The only let me finish. The only difference would be our conscious agreement with an expectation, because I don't hear the Middle Eastern relationships complaining about cheating or or infidelity. What I do hear all of us talking about globally is deceit. I hear them talking about disrespect, regardless of where we are on the globe. But culturally, polygamy is accepted in the Middle East under the Islamic religion and some others. And it works. And let's look at Salt Lake City in America. The Mormons are practicing polygamy. They have dysfunctions, yes. But I mean, they had shows on in America that had, what do they call them? Sister wives or something like that. They call them sister wives because really, legally, it's not acknowledged, but somehow in the Mormon culture, it's acceptable. And it works. And I've seen, so we have seen this working even in the West. So maybe we should, is there a benefit to this, do you think? I know that we are, I don't know. I mean, this is something, I know we do it in the Islamic world. But that's not something I choose to do. But I just don't know, is there a benefit that we all need to look at, Would this help us become more functional as it being it's happening to most of us in some way in our families? Would this help us become more functional in relationships if we just changed our narrative? I don't know. And that's something we have to continue the conversation with even after the show, because we're only limited with time on this show to discuss this. So anyway, I know when you have the lack of these relationship currencies, as we spoke of, it produces you to be, it produces misery, it produces competitiveness. It produces combativeness. People become combative, in which we hope, Shannon, you never become combative in your relationship. By all means, get out before you get to that point. You did not describe how you were being vengeful in your post, but let's just hope that it's not physical blows or verbal insults. If it's gotten to that stage, please, by all means, walk or run. Disrespect is obviously going to be in there when you don't have relationship currencies in play in a positive way. Lying is an attribute. Becoming a user is an attribute. Being a mercenary is an attribute. Being a vampire in situations and circumstances is an attribute. And what do I mean by that? Sucking the lifeblood out of someone else in order for your own selfish ambition, or because you are in some kind of lack. So you suck the life force out of someone else. And that could be in many facets. It could not only be physically, it could be mentally, it could be spiritually. There are spiritual leeches.
I hope our viewers are taking notes.
Oh, well, you know what? If you are listening to this show live, then what you can do is it will always be on YouTube. You can always go back and listen to the show with your pen and paper, and then you can write down some of these points that we're pointing out. And what happens is when you're on the negative side of positive relationship currencies, you tend to denigrate others. Sometimes economically you denigrate people by saying, hey, you're broke, or you're poor, or you're dusty in some kind of aspect in street vernacular.
Shake, I believe what you're trying to say is in general, relationships are just not easy.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about that. Let's unwrap that. Why is the expectation of relationships to be easy or to be something that is pleasurable or good? Why can't relationships have both poles, or what we call polarity? Why can't you have listen, there is no east without west. There is no north without south. There's no bad without good, you know? And so when we look at God, we kind of like think that God is good all the time, but God is not only the good, he's all. He's the good, he's the bad, and he's the ugly because he's the all, right? So everything has poles, and we have to be able to accept that in a lot of aspects, in every aspect of our life. So let's look at this. What is required of us to find equality and peace? I think it's to find the middle ground. It's to find the middle road. It's to find the balance between the two poles. You can't have it all good. You can't have it all bad. How about you have it balanced? Okay.
Well, that's what we're missing in life is a lot of people and their life are very unbalanced. And when
Yeah.
your life is unbalanced, it doesn't make for much happiness.
Yeah.
You know, each of us have to find that
balance.
even keel.
Yeah.
Balance, even keel, you know, to go through each day.
Yeah.
Each and every day.
I agree. I think we're seeking equality and not balance. See, when you
True.
or I seek to be each other's equal, then first of all, how could we ever be each other's equal when we're uniquely different? So I think seeking equality in relationships should be re-examined. Maybe you need to find balance because there's a difference. It's almost like when we look at relationships and you say, hey, sometimes now these two words, I'm going to give them to you. They sound alike, but they're remotely different. How about this? Faithfulness and loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Faithfulness, Madam Noor, means you only. Loyalty means you first. And I think we confuse those two sometimes because we think they're one and the same. But
Yes, I would agree with you. Absolutely.
Right, they have remotely different definitions. So someone can be loyal to you. Let's say Shannon's husband. He's loyal to her. He's not faithful, obviously, but he's loyal. Is loyalty a relationship currency in the positive aspect? You better believe it. It is. You know, so if he's loyal and he says, listen, you are my priority, it's you first. I apologize that it can't be you only, but it's definitely you first. Okay. Now, is that fair to the secondary position or the secondary relationship? Well, I would think that that's the price to pay, you know, because you knew that you weren't, you know, a priority in the beginning. You knew you came in as a secondary being in this union that he was already in. So if you know you're in providing she does know she's in the secondary position, then that's what she would have to, or he or she in any situation would have to accept that you're not a priority. Now, how long that's going to last, I don't know, but I think, you know, hey, if you like being second, if that appeases you, then I'm happy for you. So anyway, how is taking ownership of who we are at the core, the key to manifesting what we want out of life? And that's a question, Madam Noor.
Oh, that's a question?
Yes.
I'd have to think about that, Sheikh.
How is taking ownership of who we are at the core, the key to manifesting what we want out of our lives?
You know what? The best answer to that is we can answer that on show number 3.
Are we running out of time?
I believe it's coming to that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, can I say a few things before you tally up the show?
Sheikh, be my guest, please.
If you don't have it, you have to be it. A lot of people
If
don't
you
want to hear
don't have
this.
it, you have to be it.
Yeah. If you don't have it, you have to be it. Because we live off of magnetism. We attract the circumstances, the situation, the people, the events, and the things that come to us. We attract that. We're the law of attraction. That is a law,
Well, are you
you know.
saying that you attract what you are?
Yes, you attract what you are. And if with that said, let's look at Shannon. Mm. This situation is a very difficult situation, but she needs to find herself in it, not find fault, but find herself in it. Okay. Something about your situation is part of you. Okay. Drill down on that, unwrap all of that. Because once you unwrap all of that, Shannon, you'll be able to accept the jewel that is hiding in all of this for you. Not all diamonds, when you get a diamond out of the ground, it's rough. It hasn't been cut. It doesn't have facets yet, but it's still a diamond. It's just a diamond in the rough, right? So what I would say is this: whatever you find out through this very complicated situation in your life, remember, if you don't have it, be it. And once you become it, you'll attract it. And those are my final thoughts.
And Shannon, if you're still with us, we both believe that you'll make the right decision for you and your husband. And, both of us wish you luck.
Yeah.
And in the end, it'll all come out the way it's supposed to be. So just continue to believe and do what you need to be happy.
Yeah. We want you to be happy, Shannon, but
Wouldn't you agree
also,
with that, Jake?
yeah, we want her to be happy, but not all times in our life are made for happiness. Sometimes, we're going to have to frown. Sometimes we're going to have to endure the hardship.
And
But
maybe,
it's
Jake,
all
this
part
is
of
her
life.
time to frown. Maybe this is her time
And
and things
listen, if you're
will work
listening
out.
to us this time of year is rough for a lot of people, because relationships become a priority, or the lack thereof, and people suffer from a lot of depression this time of year. And this is really a difficult time of the year. And I mean, we've chosen a time to talk about this as we approach the Thanksgiving, those that are celebrating Thanksgiving in the United States. And soon you'll be upon Christmas and New Year's. And these are the times that, these narratives, whether they be, working in your benefit or working outside of your benefit, become very difficult to understand, because it's a lot of emotions built around this time of year because of expectations. And just always remember to drill down when you're having your roughest time, when asking those questions: why don't I have a relationship? Or if you're in a relationship, why do I have these issues in my relationships? Or if you're dealing with fear of losing a relationship or something like that, just know this: one, all this stuff will come to pass. Two is that this time of year, whatever you have, be thankful for it. And if you are alone, right, just remember the word alone is two words that come together. It's all and one. Alone is all and one. And being God is in every situation and not the observer above all situations, you're not alone, but you are one with creation. And he is both poles, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Madam Noor,
Shake, I
have
couldn't have said that better myself. And now that you have exceeded the time limit
yeah,
here,
we're over our time.
we are over our time. That was for show number 3.
Yes, we join us, ladies and gentlemen, for show number 3. We'll have another barnyard burner topic. Okay, and until then, have a great week. We may have a pop-up show in the next coming days here, so you can stay tuned to the Dynamic Force Network channel here on YouTube. And Madam Noor, with that said, we'll see everybody in another show.
Have a blessed week, everyone, and God bless us all. And
yes.
on that note, so long.
So long.